Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would give my fight breakdown of the Dmitry Bivol versus Craig Richards fight. So, let's get straight into it. So, anyways, before I get into this, I did recently release two prediction videos. One about Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora, another one of Demetrius Andrade versus Liam Williams. And I think I probably pissed off a little bit of the Joseph Parker and Dmitry Andrade fan base because what I basically said is that, even though many people look at them as overtly talented, I've never seen them on the same level of talent that many people try to put them on. And I still stand by that statement, but that doesn't mean that they're not A-class fighters for their division. That's just me saying overall that I don't necessarily think they're as talented as many people try to say that they are. But it is what it is. We'll see what they can do a little bit later on. And especially with Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade is someone that sometimes can fight to the level of his competition. So we'll see what he does this weekend against Liam Williams. But I predict maybe it could be a tough fight. If Demetrius Andrade is very dominant in that fight, I would be thoroughly impressed. So I'll be definitely doing a review on that fight this weekend. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, this is going to be a little bit of a change of pace this week because the fighter that is going to be upcoming, at least on the undercard, or the one that I'm going to be doing a video on today, Mr. Dmitry Bivol, I have always been impressed with his skill set. I have always been very thoroughly impressed with how he fights. And to be honest with you, the way that I see it, Dmitry Bivol might be the most talented light heavyweight in the world that I've seen. That is overall, or at least, in today's standards. I think that, to be honest with you, he is the most talented light heavyweight in the world. Possibly even over Artur Beterbiev, and that is saying a lot because Artur Beterbiev is no joke. Artur Beterbiev, of course, in my opinion, has some holes in his game. Sometimes is a little bit too hittable. I think sometimes relies on his power a little bit too much, where his defense or his his movement might suffer a little bit. Sometimes you see that with those great power punchers. But overall, Artur Beterbiev is an A-class fighter, and some would debate that he has A-class skills. But one person that I know for sure has A-class skills is Dmitry Bivol. And when I take a look at this fight, from what I've seen of Craig Richards, I'm just not overly impressed with him. I think that he's an okay fighter. I think that he's decently fast. I think that he doesn't have the worst power in the world. But when it comes down to it, I don't see him winning this fight. Possibly. I don't know if he has enough power to really hurt Dmitry Bivol. Once again, that's not me saying that he doesn't have a little bit of power, but I don't think that his speed or his strength really is going to be able to hurt Dmitry Bivol in this fight. I don't think that he has the skill set to really threaten Dmitry Bivol in this fight. I think that this is pretty much a stay busy fight for Dmitry Bivol because from what I remember, he did not fight all last year in 2020, so he certainly hasn't been out for a decently long time. So we'll see what he does in this fight. But in my opinion, the prediction for this, I'm going to say that Dmitry Bivol most likely stops Craig Richards within about could be anywhere from 6 to 9 rounds. I think that overall he most likely gets the stoppage in this fight. That's just personally what I predict. Now, who knows? Dmitry Bivol wasn't able to stop his last opponent, but I give him a little bit of a break for that because I don't think that some Dominican fighter, but I can't remember his name at the moment. Castillo, maybe? I can't remember. But, that fighter, I'm not sure if he's actually ever been stopped in his career, even by Marcus Brown, who's a very decent fighter. I give him I cut him a little bit of slack there. But we'll see what happens. I think that he's going to get the stoppage over Craig Richards. I believe that he is, going to have enough power in this fight to, show that he has the power to knock out Craig Richards. And just to talk more about Dmitry Bivol, man, the first fight that I ever seen him in was against Sullivan Barrera. I seen him in his fights against Jean Pascal. I seen him in his fights against Joe Smith Jr. And a couple of other ones as well that I can't remember really the name of the opponents at the moment. But Dmitry Bivol, to me, has always been impressive. I think that he is an excellent boxer. I think that, he's always had good movement. I think that he's always been very light on his feet. His hand speed is amazing for that weight class. He has decent strength, not the strength of an Artur Beterbiev or maybe a prime Sergey Kovalev, but he does have decent power. He can hurt you. I even seen him I seen him hurt Jean Pascal. I seen him hurt Joe Smith Jr. even a little bit, back him up a little bit. So, that's something that not everyone can do. And when you combine his movement, his hand speed, with how light he is on his feet, I think that he's an amazing fighter, and I think that he has the potential to become the complete unified light heavyweight of the world. I think that he has a real potential to do that. I think that he is the most talented light heavyweight in the world. And let me tell you this, and a certain amount of people, of course, are going to see that, a little bit controversial, but that's just what I see. And Artur Beterbiev, of course, does have a very decent chance of defeating Dmitry Bivol because Artur Beterbiev is also debatably the most talented light heavyweight in the world. And he has that A-grade power. But let me tell you this, man. Canelo Alvarez, who in my opinion I have as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, I think that he's been great in every weight class that he's been in. And he's only fought at 175 pounds one time, I believe, against Sergey Kovalev. And a certain amount of people are going to say that that fight was handpicked. Well, maybe a little bit. But Sergey Kovalev was still at a decent point in his career, so I give Canelo Alvarez a lot of credit for that fight. He was on a 2-win streak against 2 decent top contenders, and Sergey Kovalev still had one of the belts. So I give Canelo Alvarez a hell of a lot of credit. But let me tell you something. If Canelo Alvarez were ever to go back up to 175 pounds, this fighter right here by the name of Dmitry Bivol, he might actually be the biggest threat for Canelo Alvarez. Dmitry Bivol might hands down be the biggest threat. He has great hand speed. He's got decent power. I like his movement. I like the way that he moves. When it comes down to it, I like his skill set. I like the footwork. I like everything about Dmitry Bivol, man. I think Dmitry Bivol is an A-grade fighter. I think he's an A-class skilled fighter. He might be the most talented light heavyweight that I've seen in recent years, to be honest with you. And some people may disagree, but he's on that level with almost anybody. And that's a very talented division. Once again, I've seen him beat Jean Pascal, who actually recently revived his career against Marcus Brown and Badu Jack, surprisingly. Maybe a little bit ago, but still not that long ago. 2 fights that I don't believe he was expected to win, and he ended up getting the win over Marcus Brown and Badu Jack, so he sort of revived his career, showed that he still had a little bit left in the tank. Those would actually not be bad fights for Dmitry Bivol. I wouldn't mind seeing him face one of those guys if he could possibly get them in the ring. Badu Jack or Marcus Brown, even though they did lose to Jean Pascal, I still think they'd be decent fights. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that when it comes down to it. Of course, everyone wants to see the Artur Beterbiev fight. I think that that's an A-grade fight. That is going to be one of the biggest fights when it does happen, hopefully. But when it comes down to it, man, I just hope Dmitry Bivol can get one of these bigger fights next. Gvozdyk also would be another big fight. Maybe a rematch against Joe Smith Jr. now, because I believe he just recently fought Glasov or whatever the hell that one fighter that he just recently fought, whatever his name was. Recently just fought for a vacant title. A rematch against Joe Smith Jr. would not be bad. Yeah, man, I would like to see any of these fights. I think Dmitry Bivol is extremely talented. I think that he's the potential to go all the way and become the best light heavyweight in the world. And I think if he does eventually become the best light heavyweight in the world, there should be a major fight eventually between Canelo Alvarez and Dmitry Bivol. Would love to see that fight. And I'm not sure if Canelo Alvarez is too excited to see those big boys like Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Because those guys, they're 100% in their prime when it comes down to it, and they are real deal fighters. They are, they're bad boys. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, that's really about it for today. Thanks so much for watching. I got Dmitry Bivol by either a mid-round or late-round stoppage. We'll see what happens, or by the mid-rounds or latter round stoppage. We'll see what happens. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all later.